The observation deck overlooking Classroom 7C was packed. Delegates from 16 species pressed against the reinforced glass, their various appendages, tentacles, and sensory organs all focused on the scene below. Professor Lyra Dane sat cross-legged on the floor, a datapad in one hand, surrounded by a semicircle of Vacrian cubs. The young predators, each no larger than a Terran, wolf pup but infinitely more dangerous, watched her with luminescent eyes that could see in 17 different spectrums. She's insane, chittered Ambassador Zeloth, their translator struggling with the Centauri diplomat's rapid-fire clicks. Those are Vacrian younglings. Apex predators from birth. Their bite force could shear through titanium alloy. Professor Dane turned a page on her datapad, utterly unconcerned. Her voice carried through the speakers with that peculiar human quality. Warm, steady, unafraid. And then, she read, the little engine said, "I think I can. I think I can." One of the cubs, Rin, according to the behavioral notes, crept forward. His scales rippled with hunting patterns, the kind Vacrian adults displayed before a kill. Every delegate in the observation deck tensed. Rin pounced. He landed directly in Professor Dane's lap, his razor-sharp claws fully extended, his triple rows of teeth visible as his mouth gaped in what any xenobiologist would classify as an attack posture. Lyra Dane didn't even flinch. She simply adjusted her datapad to a better angle, placed her free hand on Rin's scaled head, and continued reading. "I think I can, I think I can, I think I can." Rin's scales shifted from hunting patterns to something softer, almost content. He circled twice in her lap before settling down, his tail wrapping around her wrist. "Physiologically impossible," breathed Dr. Korthax, the station's chief xenobiologist. "Vacrians respond to fear. It's their primary social stimulus. They respect dominance displays, submission rituals, or shows of greater predation instinct. But she's showing none of those things." "She's showing trust," said Commander Williams, the only other human on the observation deck. He'd seen this before. "Keep watching." Another cub approached, then another. Within minutes, Professor Dane had 4 Vacrian younglings arranged around and partially on top of her, all purring in a frequency that made the observation glass vibrate. She continued reading as if she were in her grandmother's garden, rather than serving as a climbing structure for infant apex predators. "The little engine pulled and pulled," she read, her fingers absently scratching behind Rin's auditory ridge, a spot that, according to every Vacrian behavioral study, should have triggered an aggressive response. Instead, Rin's purr deepened, and his eyes half closed in what could only be described as bliss. "This is the 3rd week," Commander Williams explained to the stunned delegates. "Week 1, they tested her, snapped at her, charged her, tried every dominance display in their genetic repertoire. And she survived?" Zeloth's translation carried notes of disbelief. She sat down on the floor and started reading to them. Williams smiled, didn't react to a single threat display. Didn't show fear, didn't show dominance, just treated them like they were cubs who needed a story. On the floor below, Rin had shifted position, now stretched across Professor Dane's lap with his belly exposed, the ultimate sign of Vacrian trust. 2 other cubs had wedged themselves against her sides, and a 4th had somehow managed to drape itself across her shoulders like a scaly, deadly scarf. "I think I can. I think I can. I think I can," she read, and the cubs' purring synchronized with the rhythm of her words. "But why does this work?" demanded Dr. Korthax. "Every psychological model we have for Vacrian development indicates your models are based on Vacrian adults raising Vacrian young," Williams interrupted. "This is different. This is a human doing what humans do, which is adopting anything that'll hold still long enough." As if to prove his point, Professor Dane had begun gently grooming Rin's scales, smoothing down the small ridges along his spine. The cub's purr reached a volume that made several delegates cover their auditory organs. "The engine reached the top of the mountain," she read, her voice carrying that particular warmth humans reserved for bedtime stories and small creatures. "And do you know what it said?" 4 pairs of luminescent eyes fixed on her rapt. It said, "I thought I could. I thought I could. I thought I could." Rin chirped, a sound no Vacrian cub had ever made in the presence of another species. It was the sound they made with their mothers in moments of absolute safety. 3 other cubs chirped in response. "This will change everything," whispered Ambassador Zeloth. If humans can bond with Vacrian young, if they can create pack bonds across species lines. Oh, it gets better, Williams said. Show them the cafeteria footage from this morning. A holographic display shimmered to life, showing Professor Dane walking through the station's main cafeteria. She was flanked by the same 4 cubs now walking in perfect formation around her. When a Gorvian traitor had stepped too close, Rin had placed himself between the traitor and Professor Dane, scales flashing a warning, protecting her. A human. She's domesticating them, Dr. Korthak said, horrified. No, Commander Williams corrected. She's teaching them that not everything is prey or predator. That sometimes the universe can be gentle. That sometimes you can just be safe. On the floor below, Professor Dane had closed her data pad. The 4 cubs were now piled on and around her in a heap of scales, claws, and contentment. She began humming some ancient human lullaby while running her fingers through their scales in patterns that somehow perfectly mimicked Vacrian, grooming behaviors despite her having no formal training. How long until they're too large for this? Asked Zeloth. Vacrian cubs grow fast, Williams admitted. Another month, maybe 2, and they'll be too big for lap sitting. And then? Williams grinned. Then she'll probably teach them algebra. She's already working on getting them to read. Read? Dr. Korthax's chromatophores flashed in astonishment. Vacrians didn't, Williams corrected. Past tense. Rin recognized 17 written words yesterday. The others are catching up. In classroom 7C, Professor Lyra Dane had begun singing softly, her voice weaving through the cubs, purring like thread through fabric. Rin had begun the soft chirping that Vacrian cubs used to call their mothers closer. She pulled him, a creature designed by evolution to be a perfect killing machine, into a gentle hug. He melted into it. The galaxy isn't ready for this, Zeloth said quietly. The galaxy never is, Williams replied. But that's what we do. We find things that are supposed to be impossible. Apex predators, hostile environments, mathematical paradoxes. And we sit down with them and read them bedtime stories until they make sense. That's terrifying. That's humanity. Below, Professor Dane gathered her sleepy pile of predator cubs closer, still humming that ancient lullaby. Rin chirped once more, then settled into sleep, secure in the knowledge that the soft, strange creature with no claws and no scales would keep him safe. In the observation deck, 16 species watched in silence as a human did the most human thing possible, turned monsters into children who just needed someone to read them one more story before bed.